To the severe weather we've been talking about all morning long here with this complex of thunderstorms, because we have a new tornado warning, and these storms are moving at about 50 miles an hour. That's how quickly they're moving. This one's moving off to the north and the east, and there is the overall big rotation. And what we've been seeing all morning is when you have a line like this, you get little pushes of wind. Like you can see this right here. That is a push of wind. So if you are along this line here, you're experiencing very strong winds. It's going right into Adele there. Perry, you're going to get some strong winds as well. But when you get these big pushes of wind, it pushes out and you can get spin-ups to occur. And those spin-ups are tornadoes. So you have to watch that, and in the little notches as well. Dallas Center, Panora, and Perry, you are under this tornado warning right now. And as we can take you in, I always try to remember, red is away, green is towards. So if you have winds going like that, one towards, one away, put a little pencil in your hand, you'll see that pencil spin. And that's an indication of tornado. I think it's the best way to kind of visualize it. We have overall spin here, which is what we've been seeing with all our little notches. I mean, look here, little notch, all along this line. We've been seeing these little areas that could be a tornado. So let me move out of the way so that you can actually see this. Panther, seek shelter immediately, 7:14, it'll be to you. Minburn, 7:20, going down the line to Madrid at 7:37. And again, it's moving at about 50 miles an hour. So it's going to come in real quick, and then it's going to hit you and it's going to leave. We could see a lot of wind damage with this. We can take you live to Charles Peak, who is in the area. This is in Iola, and Osceola, Iowa. And we can show you on the radar in a second his location, what he's looking at. So, well, I want you to look at that.
Right at him, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
On the right, underneath it.
So
That's a beautiful shelf cloud right there. Absolutely gorgeous.
Whoa.
So a shelf cloud develops because you have that cold air coming out from it and then that warm air getting kind of pulled into it, and it makes that shelf. So I want you to look at that. We can go back to Charles in a second because I want to show you what he's looking at. So this is Charles driving up the highway, okay? And then you see the storms there along the highway. So he must be driving, if the storms are off to his left, he's driving north.
No, he's driving
south. They're off to his right. They're off to his right. Yep. So he's driving south on 35, and these storms are off to his right, which would be to the west. So he was driving like this, and we saw those storms off to his right. I was backwards because I was on TV, so I was flipped around a little bit there because everything on TV is flipped backwards. Yep. But anyway.
She's right.
So 35 south, storms off to his right. That's west. So that's what he's looking at.
Look at that core of rain. I can't wait to see his shot when that comes over.
We continue to follow a very dangerous line of storms pushing east here through Iowa, right into Des Moines now, where we have tornado warnings, multiple severe thunderstorm warnings in yellow, tornado warnings in red, flash flood warnings, by the way, also here into green. Look at this sweep of winds, woof, in that severe thunderstorm warning. Our winds also coming along the highway, pretty gnarly. This is Charles Peak. He just went through those winds, and these things are racing off to the east. You can see that Charles is still in the rain there in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. But the worst of the weather is now crossing over 65 here, 34, and making its way eastbound to Chariton, Murray, Osceola. We're kind of on the backside of this now as everything's moving east. Garden Grove, you're about to get nailed with storms. Croydon, you'll get it as well. And we've been watching the winds with this, and we know that we have very strong winds along this. And we have had tornado warnings pop up, but nothing's been able to, thankfully, actually come together. We've had hail. The hail coming out of this, so we had reports of 1.25 inches, so 1 1/4 inch hail. Golf ball is 1 3/4 inches, so it's a little bit smaller than golf ball. There's your velocity that Jonesy was just showing you, our other producer. Our winds have been 60, 70 mile an hour with this system. Then, of course, we have the tornado warning. There's Des Moines right there. So just north of Des Moines is where we do have that tornado warning. This is racing off, by the way, to the northeast at about 50 miles an hour. So there's your rotation right there. But again, it is a very broad rotation, but that doesn't mean that you couldn't have a tornado at any moment. So if you're in the tornado warning, you should seek shelter immediately, lowest level, most interior section of your home. Even, by the way, with these severe thunderstorms, you should seek shelter because our winds are 60, 70 miles an hour. And, by the way, taking down trees. Look at this in Maxburg. Multiple trees, power lines down. with the line that came on through, and you have hail. There's Afton, but I did see reports of 1.25 as well, and that can cause damage. So even if you don't get a tornado, you are still probably going to see some damage. We've had power outages, and now they're picking up in Des Moines. And you can see where the storms came from Nebraska, pushing east down to Des Moines. And that means our severe thunderstorm watch, our tornado watches have expanded. Tornado watch until 3 p.m. today here into eastern Iowa. We are going to see more of these issued as we go through the day. Trust me on that, because the energy in the atmosphere right now is not even at its worst. As we go later into the afternoon and evening, we're waiting for another piece of energy to swing in. And around that, you are going to get stronger winds coming in at the low levels, at 500 millibars, and also in the upper levels. So when all of that swings in and comes together is today's event. So what we're dealing with right now isn't necessarily today's event, if you will. Obviously it is. It's our morning event, and it is getting energized and pushed by some of the winds that we have. But the winds later in the day are actually going to be stronger. So right now, like 50, 55 knot winds at about 500 millibars, 18,000 feet. Later in the day, those could be 80 plus knot winds. So you're going to see a lot more wind energy coming in. Oh, it looks like Charles Peace there had some flashing lights. I wonder if there were some trees down. Yeah, down trees. So that's what these winds are going to do. We have a big tree that's come down. This is what you can get. Again, not a tornado, just a strong storm. And those trees can slice right through homes. We've seen it. So let's go through today. 75 mile an hour winds are possible. Hail, we could see it 2 inches or more. In the past several days, we've seen 2, even 3 inch hail coming in. We expect that again. Here's what we're dealing with right now. You're going to get a lot of heating and humidity coming through. So that's going to keep pushing east. That's kind of the beginning of it. Then we see things reload. This is when we have that energy that swings in, it comes in, and then you get the energy around the base of that. You get that low-level jet as we head, especially later in the day, and all of that is going to cause more severe weather. Look at 4 o'clock, anywhere from Wisconsin and along that boundary. That pushes east. Chicago, we're in trouble here around 6 o'clock. Same into Peoria. Springfield, we get a little bit later. It crosses over. And by the way, Grand Rapids, it's an 8 o'clock event for you and stays pretty intense overnight. These are still very strong winds. Whenever you see that bowing out, that's an indication of strong winds. And so that means that we could have damage, unfortunately, overnight when everyone is sleeping. All right, let's take you into Des Moines. We have a live camera and look at the through and gone off to his east. So let's show you what's happening as the winds basically blow this entire system east. They don't have a mind of their own. If you look at what's happening, if you go up in the atmosphere, you can see those winds coming from west to east. And so that's what's blowing this complex of thunderstorms through eastern Iowa and towards Illinois. Davenport, Cedar Rapids, Burlington, Kirksville, Missouri, we are all under a tornado watch until 3 o'clock. And we'll see more of these watches get posted. Remember, a watch means conditions are favorable for the development. A warning means it's imminent or occurring. And that's what we are seeing right now are all these warnings. There is Des Moines with a severe thunderstorm warning. We have another one that was just issued on this line of storms. That is giving you some very strong winds as well. Chariton, Murray, this is where Charles Peak was. I assume Charles is now heading eastbound here to try to catch up with that line. There it is, 65. Okay, so Jones is showing you now that this is all heading towards places like Knoxville, because that's the direction it's going in. Very strong winds with this. We can see that. And the winds have been 60, 70 mile an hour winds. We've seen hail 1 inch or more in diameter, 1.25, 1.25 inches. That's been coming through, and strong winds kind of blasting this all out. So if you're ahead of this line and all of a sudden you feel that cool breeze outside, you know what I'm talking about? You're like, ooh, what's that? That is the thunderstorm outflow coming ahead of it, and then all of a sudden you get hit by the actual big thunderstorm. So it looks like we have a new tornado warning now here just north of the Des Moines area, just north of Elkhart as well. Severe thunderstorm warning here along 65, and that is for this line moving east. This whole line, this whole complex is moving east. We could hop up to our tornado warning here, and again, we've seen just a lot of overall rotation in the atmosphere. But we have only had a couple reports of tornadoes. Thank goodness this morning. We hope it stays that way. You can get rotation in the atmosphere. It doesn't mean it always produces a tornado. You get a lot more tornado warnings than actual tornadoes, thank goodness again, but you still have to watch for very strong winds. So even if it doesn't produce a tornado, we've seen trees down, we've seen power out. Into Des Moines, we've had power out. right now, no delays. I wouldn't be surprised Des Moines is seeing some delays there. We will see them as we head throughout the day, though. That is for sure. As we have more bad weather that is going to pop up. This is just kind of the beginning of it. That continues to move east. And then as we head later in the day, that is when our next big line that's going to come through, unfortunately, around a very heavy travel time, Jim, 5, 6 o'clock for some of these cities right around the lakes.
All right, so the system...
Jim was just showing you, and flash flooding are all certainly possible. This is only the first of the two systems that's coming on in. And even if you don't get a tornado, the wind damage from these, we've already seen power taken out in Des Moines, back into Lincoln, Nebraska, and points in between, trees down. We've had reports of that. And this is just incredible force of wind that is blowing out ahead of these thunderstorms. When you see that C shape like that, that is wind coming and blowing out ahead. And so just tremendous damage being done here along I-80. Notice that we have a Torcon of 5. This is actually for the system as we go into the afternoon. So here's number 1 coming through. We're not finished. Why are we not finished? Because we're still waiting for some of that upper level energy to the west to swing in, and it will do that this afternoon and the evening. And as it does that, you are also going to get the wind energy to swing in at low, mid, and upper levels. So look, at 1 in the afternoon, we're swinging in with more storms. So we're not finished with this round. We have more that are coming our way, and look how they really start to get more intense as we head around 2 o'clock. You see some of those cells. And I'll tell you what, even on this line that we had this morning, we didn't necessarily have individual cells, but you saw definitely a shelf cloud coming out ahead of that system, which is an indication of strong winds. And we saw green. That means that you have hail. And then it produced for Charles when he was chasing that storm, or he was following that storm, I should say, intercepting it. Here's a look at Chicago. We'll get some weather come through, okay, as we head into the afternoon. But then this is when we get rocked. 5, 6, 7 o'clock. Notice in between Naperville and Chicago just getting absolutely hammered. If you go to Waukegan westbound in this line of storms back towards Aurora, this is when everything lines up and it blows through, and you're going to see a couple rounds come through. So don't think you're one and done with this system as it makes its way. Torcon of 4. And by the way, damaging winds is very likely. We've already seen the 70, 80 plus mile an hour winds this week, 70, 80, 90, 100 mile an hour winds. And we have a lot of wind energy coming in with this. So it is possible that you might not get a tornado, but you might think you do because the winds are so intense. Northbound into Milwaukee, we also have the morning showers, not as bad for us here. But again, when all that energy swings in, 5 o'clock, Madison, Portage, Janesville, Watertown, Sheboygan, this comes through rocking and rolling, 6 o'clock, trying to make dinner, trying to pick up kids from, after activities that they have. It's going to be challenging. You might just be like, okay, you wait inside, I'll wait in the car, and we'll wait till this blows through. Taking you a little bit farther south, Bloomington, Springfield, Champaign. Any kid that maybe is getting ready to go to do some summer classes here, we get rocked around 7 o'clock here along the I-55 corridor, I-39, 72, 74, very strong winds. The one good news here, Jordan, is it's gone through by the time we're going to sleep.
Right. Meanwhile, it's going to be...
And this evening. Steph.
All right, let's have a look at the heat that is helping fuel all of this. By the way, behind this system, our temperatures are a little bit below average for some people, but they pop back up above average. We will see a bigger cool down the beginning of next week, but for now, it's warm in the west, and it is definitely warm in the east, where we have a big ridge. Ridge, high pressure, kind of interchangeable here. That's helping bring the warmth for us, and also the moisture. So being on the west side of this, that brings the moisture all the way into the Great Lakes. Now, these pieces of energy, they do eventually break down that ridge, and we get more of a flow from west to east for us here. But check out the heat. It goes all the way up into D.C. and all the way into New York. Speaking of heat, they brought the heat last night. The Knicks did. Can you believe that ending? That was unbelievable. Unbelievable ending there to that game. Temperatures are forecast to be in record territory here from the Northeast to the Mid-Atlantic, breaking records from the 70s and the 80s, some of them even from the teens. Today, we have feels like temperature above 100 throughout Texas. Speaking of, Spurs and Knicks go back to Texas for the next game. Notice tomorrow that ridge holds steady all the way up into New York City. 99 is what it's going to feel like, and that is tough in the city. Woof, especially when you go down into the subway and there's really no airflow, you're just sitting there kind of melting. You feel like you're melting because you're sweating so much down into the subways there. Tomorrow, we are going to see again the potential for record highs and very high heat indices. We really don't cool off until we get into the beginning of next week. Notice that we stay in the triple digits here for our heat index. Memphis, Montgomery to the coast, Little Rock today 94. What did I say on Monday? Yes. 82 degrees. We definitely cool off for us here. How about rain-wise? Not loads of it until this next system comes through, which will help bring in the cooler air.